I thought I'd seen it all in my career: fraud schemes, embezzlement that would make your head spin. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the morning. The HOA president of my neighborhood tried to force her way into my house, dropped a stolen police chief's badge on my doorstep, and then got exposed in front of half the police force when my wife walked out and every single cop froze, "Chief." That was the moment everything snapped into place. But to understand how it all came crashing down, I need to start at the beginning. When Jane and I moved into Maplewood Heights, it felt like we'd hit the American dream. Rows of pristine homes, lawns manicured like golf courses, quiet streets where the only sound was the occasional lawnmower. I was a forensic accountant, detail-obsessed by nature, and Jane worked some vague government job she never elaborated on. County administration, she'd say with a shrug. I didn't push it. Happy wife, happy life, right? We were supposed to live out our days worrying about nothing bigger than which hedge trimmer to buy. But then Patricia Williams marched into our lives. Patricia was the kind of woman who looked like she was born with a clipboard in one hand and a complaint form in the other. Mid-50s, platinum blonde hair shellacked into a helmet, power suits that screamed, manager meeting heels that clicked like a metronome. She introduced herself as HOA board chair with the reverence most people use when announcing they've just been elected to Congress. And she didn't just visit my house, she marched up like she was storming the beaches, fumbling with a maintenance key and announcing a so-called mandatory inspection. I watched through the window as she jiggled the lock, over and over muttering that I must have changed it without authorization. It was like watching someone try to start a car with a fork. And then cosmic punchline. Something silver flew from her oversized purse and landed right at my feet. When I picked it up, my stomach turned cold. A police chief's badge, Riverside County, the real deal, heavy engraved official. The color drained from Patricia's face. She lunged for it, shrieking, "You can't tell anyone! It's evidence I'm helping the police with a case." Evidence. Since when does an HOA president walk around with a police chief's credentials stuffed between coupons and breath mints? She stuffed it back into her purse like it was oxygen, muttering excuses, then stormed off with a final promise that made my skin crawl. "You'll learn what real authority looks like." That should have been the end. But Patricia didn't just meddle, she orchestrated. Soon neighbors were whispering. She told them I'd bribed officials, that Jane's mysterious county job was tied to shady zoning deals. She started building a case against me, photos of me buying coffee turned into coded meetings, yard work into evidence disposal. She even drafted fake transcripts, binders full of annotated gossip dressed up like legal exhibits. I laughed at first until the HOA sent me notices. Then came whispers from neighbors, then a knock from a local detective curious about complaints. That's when reality hit. Patricia was convincing, disturbingly convincing. And I started spiraling. One night I sat in my living room surrounded by her bogus violation letters and the HOA fines piling up. My wife looked exhausted, my neighbors avoided eye contact, and for the first time in my life I wondered, am I the problem? Maybe I should just rip up the roses she hated, pay the fine, swallow the pride, and make it all go away. I'd built a career catching liars, and yet one suburban queen with a clipboard had me questioning my sanity. But then came the twist. While looking for documents one evening, I stumbled into the back of Jane's closet. Hung neatly behind her coats was a dark blue uniform insignia gleaming. A nameplate that read, Chief Harris. Not clerk, not assistant. Chief. My wife, my secretive paperwork-loving wife, was the actual police chief of Riverside County. When I confronted her, she confessed. She'd kept it quiet to avoid exactly what Patricia was now doing, neighbors exploiting her authority, criminals knowing where she lived. She sighed, shoulders heavy, and admitted the irony. Patricia had stolen her badge, and now she was framing us with it. And then Jane asked, "So what do we do?" My answer shocked us both. Nothing. Let her bury herself. And bury herself she did. The next morning, police cars lined our street. Flashing lights, detectives, even a CSI van, all mobilized because Patricia had strutted into the Maplewood Police Department with Jane's badge in hand, spinning a grand tale about corruption and bribes. She played her part like an Oscar contender, tears trembling voice, dramatic pauses. Detective Johnson bought every word. He even signed a warrant for our house. Patricia stood across the street, clipboard hugged to her chest, jewelry sparkling giddy as if she were directing a parade. When the officers knocked, she marched forward, badge aloft. This man tried to bribe the Riverside County Police Chief, she proclaimed, voice booming, neighbors gathering like it was a stage play. And then timing, so perfect it felt scripted. Jane pulled into the driveway in her official police vehicle. Full uniform, rank insignia shining. The crowd hushed as she stepped out, calm, authoritative, every inch the chief she truly was. Patricia blinked confused, still gripping the badge like it was her Excalibur. Detective Johnson turned to Jane, polite but wary. "Excuse me, are you with Riverside County?" Jane flashed her ID. Detective Johnson read the words, and I saw his face twist through 6 expressions in 3 seconds. And then Officer Smith, standing nearby, shouted what sealed Patricia's fate. "Chief Harris, ma'am, we didn't know this was your residence." The silence that followed was absolute, and then Johnson turned, eyes wide, staring at Patricia. "Mrs. Williams, are you telling us that Chief Harris tried to bribe herself with her own badge?" Patricia stammered denial, spilling from her mouth like water through broken glass. No, she's just a clerk. She files paperwork. This is impossible." She waved the badge frantically as if it might rewrite reality. But reality was already standing in front of her, calm and composed. Jane stepped forward, voice cool, professional. "That badge was stolen from my vehicle weeks ago. You've used it to file false reports and harass my family. How did you obtain it?" "Mrs. Williams?" Patricia's face collapsed. All the arrogance drained into panic as Detective Johnson reached for his cuffs. "Mrs. Williams, you're under arrest for theft of police credentials, filing false reports, and obstruction of justice." The click of metal on her wrists was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. The same neighbors she'd poisoned with lies now stood slack-jawed, watching their self-proclaimed queen marched into a patrol car, like the criminal she truly was. Patricia had spent weeks plotting my downfall, certain she held all the power. But in her arrogance, she'd built a perfect trap, and then stepped into it herself. And that's how a stolen badge and one arrogant HOA Karen turned my quiet suburban life into a courtroom drama. Sometimes justice doesn't need a grand gesture, it just waits for the liar to trip over her own lies.